This is Life Points with Ronda, because every choice is a life point. Every decision shapes your love, your money, and your life's direction. So take a breath, open your mind. Are you ready for today's topic? Let's dive in. Trigger warning. This episode contains discussions of gun violence, alleged security incidents, political assassination attempts, and the Epstein trafficking case. We also discuss theories about staged events and media manipulation. Listener discretion is advised. Alleged statement, paragraph. Before we go any further, I need to make something crystal clear. Everything discussed in this episode involves allegations, unverified claims, and questions about official narratives. The incidents at the White House Correspondents Dinner, the July 2024 Butler rally shooting, and the September 2024 golf club incident are all officially classified as assassination attempts or security threats. What we are doing here is asking questions, not presenting proven facts. The purpose of this episode is not to declare guilt or innocence regarding any incident, but to examine patterns, question official narratives, and consider alternative explanations that mainstream media refuses to entertain. Please keep this in mind as you listen. Hook. I have been watching the news cycle for weeks now, and something is not adding up. On April 25th, 2026, President Donald Trump was rushed out of the White House Correspondents Dinner. The official story, a 31-year-old man from California, armed with a shotgun, handgun, and multiple knives, tried to storm the hotel. Secret Service evacuated Trump, Vice President JD Vance, the First Lady, and hundreds of journalists. The suspect was detained. No shots were fired at the president. He was uninjured and safe within minutes. But here's the detail that made me laugh out loud. And I mean hysterically, the kind of laugh you do when you cannot believe anyone is buying this. According to multiple reports, they evacuated JD Vance before they evacuated Trump. Think about that. The vice president, the second in line, the constitutional backup, was pulled out first. And then, after making sure the spare was safe, they went back for the main attraction. It is almost too perfect. It is like a comedy sketch about how little they respect the actual chain of command. Or perhaps it was just clumsy stagecraft. Someone backstage shouting, "Get Vance out first. We need the photo of Trump looking brave while being rushed." Either way, it is hysterical. And it is also deeply revealing. Because here is what I cannot stop thinking about. Just like the July 2024 rally shooting, just like the September 2024 golf course scare, every single time Trump's poll numbers dip, every single time the Epstein files start trending, every single time the public gets close to uncomfortable truths, there is another security incident, another attempt, another reason for the media to rally around him, another distraction. I am not saying these events are fake. I am saying they are convenient. And in politics, convenience is rarely a coincidence. Today on Life Points with Ronda, we are going down a very uncomfortable rabbit hole. We are looking at the White House Correspondents Dinner shooting scare of April 2026. We are connecting it to the Butler rally shooting of July 2024. We are looking at the polls. We are looking at the Epstein files. And we are asking the question that no mainstream outlet will touch. When a pattern emerges of crises timed perfectly to shift public attention, at what point does coincidence become strategy? And yes, we are going to talk about how JD Vance was evacuated before Trump, because that detail alone tells you everything you need to know about who is running the show and who they consider expendable. Early call to action. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. Put your feelings aside. Whether you love Trump or hate him, whether you voted for him or against him, that is not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about power, about how those in power use fear, drama, and manufactured crises to control what you pay attention to. You cannot think clearly if you are always reacting to the latest emergency. And if you are always reacting, you are not in control. They are. So here's my call to action. Listen with your critical thinking engaged, not your emotions. Question every official story. Follow the timing. Follow the money. Follow the attention. And pay attention to the ridiculous details, like evacuating the vice president before the president, because those details often reveal the truth. Please share this episode. We need more people willing to look at patterns, not just headlines. Now, let me lay out what happened on April 25th, 2026, and why it feels so familiar. The White House Correspondents Dinner, what they told us. On the night of April 25th, 2026, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were attending the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner at the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. According to multiple reports, a 31-year-old man from California was taken into custody after shots were fired near the event. The suspect was reportedly armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. Secret Service agents rushed to evacuate the room, but here's the order that has been reported. Vice President JD Vance was taken out first. Then, after Vance was secure, agents returned for President Trump. The First Lady and other dignitaries were also evacuated. Hundreds of journalists hid under tables. The event was thrown into chaos. Trump later told Fox News that the incident would not deter him from the war on Iran, adding that it was unlikely linked to that conflict. He also complained that the Washington Hilton, the location of the dinner, was not particularly secure, using the moment to argue for a new ballroom of all things. The suspect was detained. No one was killed. Trump was uninjured. That is the official story. Now let me tell you why it does not sit right with me, and why the Vance first detail is the key to understanding the whole thing. The Vance detail, why it matters. Let me be blunt. If you are evacuating the vice president before the president, you are either incompetent or you are performing. There is no scenario where a legitimate threat to the president's life results in the backup being pulled to safety before the commander-in-chief. That is not how the Secret Service operates. Their entire job is to take a bullet for the president, not to save the spare first. So why did it happen? A few possibilities. Possibility 1, the threat was never credible. Security was lower than usual. The agents knew the suspect was not an actual danger. So they evacuated in a theatrically staged order. Get Vance out first to create drama, then Trump for the photo op. Possibility 2, the agents were following a prearranged script for a rehearsal. Someone got the order wrong. They accidentally evacuated Vance first, realized their mistake, and then scrambled to get Trump. This would be incompetence, but the kind of incompetence that suggests the event was not a genuine emergency. Possibility 3, it was deliberate. They wanted it to be noticed. They wanted people to talk about how close it was, how chaotic. They wanted the image of Trump being rushed out, but only after they secured his backup. It adds to the drama. It makes the story bigger. Whatever the reason, the Vance first detail is hysterical. It is also deeply telling, and it is one of the many reasons I do not trust the official narrative of this incident. The 5 red flags. Why this story feels off. Red flag number 1, the security level was deliberately low. According to reports, the White House Correspondents' Dinner did not have the highest security level, despite the president attending. This is not a normal oversight. This is a choice. Security protocols for presidential events are not casual. They are planned for weeks, sometimes months. If the Secret Service wanted maximum security, they could have had it. They chose not to. Why? Because a lower security level makes an incident more likely, or at least more dramatic. It also makes it easier to explain away odd details, like evacuating the vice president first. Red flag number 2, Trump was evacuated after Vance and was already framing the narrative before facts were known. Within 30 minutes of the security incident, Trump was posting on Truth Social. He was already spinning the story, already talking about Iran, already complaining about the venue. A real assassination attempt, one that actually endangered the president, would not have the president posting on social media half an hour later. That is the behavior of a politician who knows he was never in real danger. And the fact that they took Vance out first suggests that the entire evacuation was more about theater than safety. Red flag number 3, the suspect's identity and motive remain curiously vague. In the days following the incident, we heard very little about the alleged gunman. We know his age. We know he was from California. We know he was armed. But what was his motive? Who did he support? Why did the Secret Service detain him rather than shoot him, as they did with Thomas Crooks in 2024? The lack of information is striking. In an era of 24/7 news, if investigators wanted us to know something, we would know it. The silence suggests either incompetence or a narrative that is still being written. Red flag number 4, the incident distracted from real news. The day before the dinner, Trump's approval ratings hit a record low. Polls showed his disapproval rating as high as 62%, with his approval rating dropping to as low as 36%. A CNBC poll found his net approval rating dropped 10 points to -18, the lowest ever measured across both of his terms. The economy was tanking. The war with Iran was unpopular, and Trump's own party was beginning to worry about the midterms. Then, suddenly, a shooting scare. And for 48 hours, the news cycle was not about Trump's sinking polls, not about the economy, not about the Epstein files. It was about the assassination attempt. It was about sympathy for Trump. It was about the drama. And people were too busy watching the footage of Vance being rushed out to ask why he went first. Red flag number 5, this is a pattern, and that brings me to the most important red flag of all. This is not the first time Trump has been at the center of a dramatic security incident, right when his political fortunes were fading. It is not the second time. It is at least the third. And each time, there is a detail that seems almost too perfect, like the bullet grazing the ear, or the golf course suspect hiding in bushes, or Vance being evacuated before Trump. These details are what make the stories memorable. They are also what make them suspicious. The Butler, rally shooting, the ear that saved a campaign. On July 13th, 2024, a 20-year-old gunman named Thomas Matthew Crooks opened fire at a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, from the roof of a nearby building. A bullet grazed Trump's right ear. A spectator was killed. 2 others were injured. The shooter was killed by Secret Service snipers. In the immediate aftermath, Trump's approval ratings surged. The image of him raising his fist, blood on his face, with an American flag behind him, became iconic. It was replayed millions of times. It dominated the news for weeks. It was, by any measure, a political gift. But here is what has always bothered me. A bullet grazed his ear, not his head, not his chest, his ear. The shooter was using an AR-style rifle from a rooftop. The shot was not a wild spray. It was aimed. And yet, the bullet hit the least lethal part of his head possible. There have been conspiracy theories since day one. Many people, including some in the Democratic Party, have suggested that the shooting was a false flag operation, a staged event designed to boost Trump's popularity. Others have argued that the risk was too high, that a staged shooting could easily go wrong and kill Trump accidentally. I am not saying it was staged. I am saying that the pattern of convenience is impossible to ignore. Trump was trailing in the polls before Butler. After Butler, he was a martyr. The conversation shifted from his legal troubles, his scandals, his unpopular policies, to his bravery, his survival, his miraculous escape. And now, in April 2026, with his approval ratings in the mid-30s and dropping, with the war in Iran dragging on, with the economy in shambles, suddenly, another dramatic security incident, another evacuation, another chance for Trump to look like a target, a victim, a man under siege. And this time, they even had the presence of mind to evacuate the vice president first, just to add a layer of realism to the performance. The golf course incident, a third act in the pattern. Before we go further, let me also mention the September 2024 incident at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. According to the FBI, Secret Service agents disrupted what they described as an apparent assassination attempt while Trump was golfing. A suspect, later identified as 59-year-old Ryan Routh, was allegedly hiding in the bushes with a rifle. No shots were fired. Routh was arrested. Again, the timing was notable. This was just 2 months after the Butler shooting, while Trump's campaign was still riding the wave of sympathy. The golf course incident did not generate the same media frenzy, perhaps because it was less dramatic, perhaps because the public was already numb to attempts, perhaps because the narrative was getting harder to sell. But here's my point. When you look at these 3 events together, July 2024, September 2024, April 2026, a pattern emerges. Each incident occurred during a period when Trump needed a boost. Each incident shifted the news cycle away from negative stories. Each incident allowed Trump to present himself as a victim of persecution. And each incident had at least one detail that seemed almost too theatrical: the ear, the bushes, the Vance first evacuation. I am not saying any of these events were staged. I am not saying the shooters were not real. I am saying that in politics, when the same thing happens at the same convenient times repeatedly, it is not unreasonable to ask questions. And the mainstream media refuses to ask those questions, because asking them would be conspiracy theory. But questioning a convenient narrative is not conspiracy. It is critical thinking. The timing, polls, Epstein, and the true distraction. This section is the heart of why I believe these incidents are not what they appear to be. Because the timing of the Correspondents' Dinner scare was not just about Trump's sinking approval ratings. It was also about the Epstein files. In February 2026, the U.S. Justice Department released additional names from the Jeffrey Epstein files after lawmakers pushed for less redacted documents. The list included high-profile figures such as Donald Trump, former President Barack Obama, and former First Lady Michelle Obama, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, disgraced entertainer Bill Cosby, and actor Robert De Niro. Over 300 names were released in total. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that all the Epstein files had been released, declaring that no one was shielded from public scrutiny to spare them embarrassment. But here's the problem. Many believe the files are incomplete. Critics have accused the Trump FBI of a cover-up, noting that some names were initially redacted and only revealed after pressure from lawmakers like Ro Khanna. The Epstein case is radioactive. It involves some of the most powerful people in the world. It involves allegations of sex trafficking, child abuse, and a network of elites who, it is alleged, protected each other. The release of the Epstein files threatened to expose connections that could destabilize powerful individuals on both sides of the political aisle. And then, on April 25th, 2026, a shooting scare. And suddenly, no one is talking about Epstein. The news cycle is dominated by the dramatic evacuation, the gunman, the bravery of the Secret Service. And the detail that Vance was taken out first becomes a talking point, a quirky footnote that distracts from the real story. The Epstein files disappear from the front page. That is not a coincidence. That is a strategy. When those in power want to bury a story, they do not delete it. They overwrite it with something louder, scarier, more immediate. An assassination scare is the perfect overwrite. It triggers fear, patriotism, and sympathy, all emotions that override critical thinking. And a bizarre detail, like evacuating the vice president first, that just makes it more memorable and more effective as a distraction. The Epstein files, what we are not talking about. Let me take a moment to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, because that is the point. That is the story they do not want you focused on. Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted sex offender who died in a Manhattan jail cell in August 2019, officially ruled a suicide. But many, including myself, do not believe that. Epstein had connections to powerful politicians, billionaires, and foreign leaders. He had a private island. He trafficked underage girls for years, and somehow, despite mountains of evidence, very few of his powerful associates have faced any consequences. The Epstein files have been released in batches over the past year. In January 2026, thousands of additional documents were released, including emails, internal FBI memos, draft indictments, tip line allegations, and investigative material. Those documents included an FBI email ordering investigators to compile derogatory information on Trump, Clinton, Prince Andrew, and others. In February 2026, the DOJ delivered a letter to Congress listing all government officials and politically exposed persons mentioned in the files, including Trump, Bill Clinton, and others. The files are damning. They are also confusing. In some versions, Trump is named. In others, his name appears. The files document his past relationship with Epstein, a relationship that included multiple flights on Epstein's private plane, dubbed the Lolita Express. But here's what I find most disturbing. The files have been released slowly, incrementally, over months. Each release generates a flurry of headlines, And then, conveniently, something happens to push the story off the front page. The Butler shooting, the golf course incident, the Correspondents' Dinner scare, and with each incident, there is a detail designed to capture attention: the ear, the bushes, the vice president being evacuated first. It is a pattern of distraction that is so consistent, so predictable, that it must be strategic. You do not have to believe in a grand conspiracy to see that powerful people benefit when the public is frightened, enraged, or distracted. Fear sells. Drama sells. The truth, especially the ugly, complicated truth about Epstein, does not sell. It is uncomfortable. It implicates people on all sides. So they bury it under a never-ending stream of breaking news and theatrical evacuations. The distraction. Playbook, how power works. Let me lay out what I believe is the playbook. It goes like this. Step 1, release bad news. The economy is down, the war is unpopular, approval ratings are sinking, the Epstein files are trending. Step 2, wait for public attention to peak. Step 3, stage or exaggerate a dramatic incident, a shooting, a security scare, a threat. Make sure to include a quirky, memorable detail that will dominate social media. The ear, the bushes, Vance first. Step 4, the media goes into 24/7 coverage mode, abandoning the bad news for the drama. They replay the footage endlessly. They interview talking heads. They speculate about motives. Step 5, the public, frightened and emotional, rallies around the leader. They forget about the Epstein files. They forget about the sinking polls. They focus on the drama. Step 6, the leader gets a bump in approval ratings. The bad news is forgotten, and the Epstein files are archived until the next release cycle. It is not complicated. It is not even particularly sophisticated. It is the oldest trick in the political book. Create a crisis, exploit the fear, control the narrative. And the Vance first detail, that is just the cherry on top. It is the thing that makes people say, "Can you believe they took Vance out before Trump?" It gets repeated. It goes viral. And while you are laughing or shaking your head, you are not thinking about Epstein. You are not thinking about the economy. You are thinking about JD Vance being rushed out of a ballroom. That is the game. I am not saying that Trump personally orchestrated these incidents. I am saying that the people around him, the people who control the security, the messaging, the media strategy, are not stupid. They know what works. And what works is keeping you afraid, keeping you distracted, and keeping you from asking the hard questions about Epstein. What I believe and what I don't know. So let me be honest with you. I do not know if the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting scare was real. I do not know if the evacuation order was scripted. I do not know why they took Vance out before Trump. But I know it is hysterical, and I know it is telling. I do not know if the bullet that grazed Trump's ear in Butler was staged. I do not know if the golf course suspect was a genuine threat. I do not know who is behind the Epstein cover-up. I do not know why the Epstein files are being released in such slow, piecemeal fashion. I do not know who is benefiting from the distraction, but I do know that patterns matter, and the pattern here is unmistakable. Trump's approval ratings were tanking. The Epstein files were threatening to expose powerful people. The economy was in trouble. The war in Iran was unpopular. And then, suddenly, a dramatic security scare, with a bizarre quotable detail that everyone is talking about. I do not know if it was staged. I do know that it was convenient. I do not know if the shooter was credible. I do know that his identity and motive are suspiciously vague. I do not know if the Secret Service was acting on genuine intelligence. I do know that security levels were lowered before the event, a choice that makes no sense if the threat was real. And I know that evacuating the vice president before the president is not standard protocol. And I do not believe in coincidences, especially not when there is so much power, so much money, and so much at stake. The hard truth, you are being managed. Here's the hard truth that I need you to hear. You are being managed. Your attention is being managed. Your emotions are being managed. Your beliefs are being managed. The news cycle is not random. It is curated. Stories are chosen, framed, and timed for maximum impact. And when you are constantly reacting to shootings, to scares, to dramas, you are not thinking. You are just feeling. And when you are just feeling, you are easy to control. The people in power want you afraid. Fear makes you compliant. Fear makes you look for a strong leader to protect you. Fear makes you willing to overlook corruption, incompetence, and even crime. And a good, memorable detail, the ear, the bushes, Vance first, makes the fear stick. The Epstein files are the truth they do not want you to see. The security scares are the distraction they want you to obsess over. Do not fall for it. We owe it to ourselves to keep asking the hard questions, to keep looking at the patterns, to keep demanding transparency, not just from politicians, but from the media, from the security agencies, from everyone who profits from your fear. And the next time you hear about a dramatic security scare, especially one that involves a bizarre, quotable detail, pause. Ask yourself, what am I not being shown? What story is being buried? Who benefits from my attention being here instead of there? Rest in peace to all those who have been harmed by the Epstein trafficking ring. Their stories deserve justice, not distraction. And rest in power to those who keep asking questions, even when it is uncomfortable. And for the record, evacuating JD Vance before Donald Trump is the funniest thing I have heard all year. It is also the most revealing. Share this episode. Tag it #LifePointsWith Ronda. Keep asking the hard questions. Keep looking at the patterns. Do not let fear control you. Do not let drama distract you. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Guard it fiercely. Subscribe to Life Points with Ronda and join me on my other shows, Love, Lies, and Life Lessons, The Wealth Reset Pod, and Lady Aurelia Ravenshade Presents for more deep conversations about truth, healing, and justice. Keep your eyes open. The truth is rarely the first story you hear, and sometimes the funniest detail is the one that tells you everything. Thank you for tuning in to Life Points with Ronda. Be sure to subscribe, share, and keep growing.